Mushroom Oasis. I believe this is part 4, but apparently we're going to be going to see Michael's family. He grasped my hand before I could say another word, pulling me up and heading outside with me in tow. As the door swung open, I could only see forest ahead before he tugged me along as he rounded the side of the cabin. Almost immediately, my peripherals were assaulted with greens on both sides. I figured he was the type to grow his own vegetables, but to see it in person as confirmation was a whole different thing. With Michael leading the way, I only had a moment to take in the surrounding garden. He had marked the different plots with messy drawings and all wooden signs jutting out of the dirt. Carrots, lettuce, potatoes, trellises of tomatoes and beans. I wouldn't have been able to differentiate one plant from another without the signs. Even the chamomile from our tea just now grew abundant close by, the small buds swaying gently. I bumped into Michael as he suddenly stopped, the man looking over his shoulder to beam at me. He reached what looked like a fenced-off area with a bit of netting stretching all around. He stepped aside, watching me as my eyes widened. Chickens! 3 fat, happy little hens stuttered about like they owned the place. As he entered through the gate, the hens swarmed over in an instant at Michael's feet, circling him and pecking at his boots. Ladies, meet Aria. Aria, these are Sensu and Primrose. Or as I like to call them, Marmar, Sunny, and Rosie. He ducked to pick one up, fluffing up her feathers as he smiled. He gently scratched the hen's little head, which I assumed was Rosie. She practically melted at his pampering, eyes sliding shut. The other 2 flapped their wings in a huff and went about their business once more. Michael leaned closer, beckoning me to pet Rosie. She was so soft. Rosie's the oldest. She doesn't lay eggs anymore, but I couldn't bring myself to, So I brought her some friends. Marmar came first. Sunny's a more recent addition. What do you think? Do he make a good family? I laughed and nodded, watching as Rosie nuzzled into Michael's chest. I didn't expect chickens of all things. Were you expecting something else? I was expecting it to be someone else. Oh. No. When you look at me, people generally don't stick around. There's that negative self-talk again. You don't even look that bad. His eyes flicked to me, a look of pleasant surprise crossing his face. You really think so? Yeah? You can't be that naive, Firefly. I mean it! He let out a polite scoff as he scratched Rosie's head absently. You genuinely believe people wouldn't run away at the sight of me? Well, I didn't. His smile turned smug, the corner of his lips lifting just a bit. Of course you didn't. Because you couldn't. Shoot. He wasn't wrong. I was pretty much paralyzed in his bed when we first met. But I still don't think you look that bad. Is that so? Describe me then. What? You heard me. Look at me and describe what you see. For a second, I thought he was being condescending, but looking at his eyes, all I could see was a bit of playfulness. He looked at me expectantly, eyes shining. You're tall? Go on. You have blonde hair. He gave an amused squint, his left ear twitching. What else? You have green skin and a tail. He chuckled, though there was no malice in it. But that's not all, is it? He definitely expected me to say it straight. Oh, fine. So you don't look human. So what? He hummed absently. As I was saying, animals generally don't care if you look like a monster. My heart twisted at his words. His passive nonchalance somehow makes it even worse. Michael, you're not a tug at my shoelace caught my attention. A light brown hen stood at my feet, her beady eyes shining. Sunny flapped her wings almost expectantly. Aw, I think she likes you. Go ahead, pick her up, gently, like how I did with Rosie. I hesitated, but slowly lowered myself to cup Sunny by her wings. Lifting her up, she was quick to nestle herself until she was comfortable, tucked under my arms. I could feel her wings wiggling as she nuzzled into my side. So cute. Michael's gaze softened as I cooed at the chicken, mimicking her small clucks. So, did it help? Cheering you up, I mean. Oh, so that's what this was. A fuzzy feeling bloomed in my chest as he looked at me, chicken in his arms and concern on his face. A little bit, yeah. Only a little? I snickered, rolling my eyes. Okay, mister, a lot. That's more like it. His proud grin was infectious. I couldn't help smiling back. He spent a bit more time with the hens, petting them until they were satisfied. Michael even showed me the spot where they like to have their dust baths, little chicken-shaped holes scattered about in the dry soil underneath the coop. Once the gals had enough of us, we refilled their water container before leaving. He left them some treats, procuring them straight out of his pockets before shutting the gate. The girls' excited chatter over the food faded as we made our way back inside the cabin. I sat by his bed as he crouched down by the fireplace. From the window I could see the sun outside was getting higher. It might be close to afternoon now. Hey, Michael. He looked at me from where he was stoking the fire. I rubbed my arms, unsure where to place my gaze. I think it's a good time for me to go now. I didn't... My expression fell, but I caught myself quickly. He's done his best to cheer me up. It'll be inconsiderate towards him to leave in a bad mood. I might have to accept that I'll never see Huck again. I think it's better if I focus on moving on. He was quiet for a moment, hands in his pockets. If you say so. But you don't have to just leave. But you don't have to leave just yet. We've still got plenty of daylight left, and there's some places I want to show you. Won't you come with me? I had to decide. Whoa! I promise, I'll take you home right after. He took another step towards me. Please, Firefly? Michael. I didn't want to say it, but he looked desperate. Okay, okay. I'll go with you. The joy on his face was shining bright as a billboard. Great. Let me get our stuff. He disappeared into the kitchen, returning with my backpack in one hand and a satchel in the other. He passed it to me as he walked by towards the front door. I almost forgot I had this. Rifling through my bag, I found cat treats, Huck's collar, a broken compass, and my phone. The battery was dead, though. Still, that's one less thing to worry about. I checked through my bag once more, finding an empty water bottle. I frowned, distinctly remembering I forgot to pack water for my trip. Or at least, Michael told me I did. Didn't I? You ready? Oh. Ooh. I looked up at Michael, staring when I spotted the large crossbow in his hands. He followed my gaze and shrugged, albeit with a nervous smile, like he'd been caught doing something he shouldn't be. He quickly strapped the weapon to his bag and out of sight. Don't worry, I'm not gonna use it unless necessary. I would hope not. He chuckled at my indignant tone. You think I'm gonna let you go out in the woods without guaranteeing your safety? I made a promise to get you home, so this is just an extra precaution. You don't think it's a bit much? Better safe than sorry, Firefly. He did have a point. If anyone knew these woods and the kind of danger it held, it'd be Michael. I glanced over him again, noticing he changed his oversized cardigan for something more outdoor appropriate. His eyes tracked mine, his shoulders stiffening as a tint spread across his face. So, shall we? He opened the door and waved me out. I stepped outside to glance around his front yard. The landscape wasn't anything special. It was actually left quite plain, just thick with trees and foliage. Only paths of dirt and flattened grass clued me in on the routes Michael would use as he comes and goes, webbing in all directions, trailing in the front door. Come to think of it, anyone passing through would be able to spot Michael's house if they squinted through these trees carefully enough. I guess he was right that nobody walked through this area in years. I heard a lock before Michael joined me by his side. He smiled wide before tipping his head in a direction, making sure I was behind him before he started walking. I was hesitant, but followed suit. It was quiet as we traveled, save for the sounds of nature calling out around us. The weather was bright and warm, the sun casting pretty rays through the gaps in the trees. I had to admit, enjoyable as it was, the bird calls and rustling of leaves as we walked somewhat brought bad memories. Yesterday was miserable. I was lost, tired, and hungry. There was a chance I wasn't gonna make it out alive. I watched Michael's back as he led the way, the man barely paying any mind to his surroundings. His ear would occasionally flick back in my direction, but overall he seemed confident on where to go. Having Michael as my guide home was definitely a great assurance. It made me even more grateful he'd found me when he did. I sighed and shook off the negative feelings, keeping pace, appreciating the fresh air. I stepped up next to my companion, willing my voice to speak after plenty of silence. This is actually kinda nice. A good old nature walk. I coughed into my fist, feeling embarrassed. I I don't go outside often as I should. Michael smiled kindly. I'm glad I get to bring you then. Yeah, feels different when you know where you're going. Actually, where are we going? He sensed my nervousness and laughed. Don't worry. We're almost there. I looked up and saw it before he even pointed it out. A clearing in the distance, the trees growing strangely sparse in that area. I held my breath as I noticed the grass slowly started to dot with flowers, delicate blooms swaying here and there in the breeze. As we got closer, Michael watched me as my mouth dropped open, a knowing twinkle in his eyes. It was breathtaking. A secluded little meadow of flowers, lit up by beams of light, making the scenery resemble a page of a forgotten fairy tale. Butterflies flitted about in pairs, their wings flickering and contemplating the surreal yet enchanting ambience of the whole place. Michael let me gawk some more before walking ahead, turning to face me before sitting down to relax in the grass. He slipped off his satchel and laid it on the grass by his side along with his crossbow. I blinked out of my stupor and approached him, spinning around to drink everything in before plopping myself down next to him. So, what do you think? Pretty, isn't it? Oh. I nodded dumbly before finally glancing to face him, the man's gaze on me softening as our eyes met. A butterfly approached us rapidly, making me flinch on instinct. It laid it on his finger as he held it out, its wings flapping gently. He smiled at the dainty creature, a fond look in his eyes before he held it out towards me. Do you like butterflies, Arya? Ooh, see. I love butterflies. I think they're okay. I'm scared of them, actually. I love butterflies. I do. I think they're so pretty. This is amazing, Michael. His usual prideful smirk was absent, replaced instead with a shy smile. I'm glad you like it. The sun was at its peak now, the air getting warmer as minutes passed. The leafy canopy over us provided enough cover for us to not overheat. Michael picked a flower with his other hand and placed it in my palm, his tail looping loosely around us both as my cheeks darkened. He closed his eyes and leaned back further, the butterfly still resting on his hand. My ears caught a soft rumbling before I realized it was coming from his direction. I almost wanted to ask, but I didn't want to ruin the moment. My gaze dropped as I twirled the flower in my hand, holding the stem directly. The gesture felt platonic, but also romantic. I wonder if Michael was even interested in relationships. He'd been alone most of his life. He'd probably get tired of my presence sooner or later. Before I could contemplate further, the butterfly on Michael's finger took off, my gaze trailing after it as it left the sunlight and flew away into the woods. Which reminds me, Michael? Don't get me wrong. This place is stunning. But is it okay if we go now? He straightened from his relaxed slouch. Why? We just got here. I chewed on my lip, hesitating. I love it here, I do. But I want to go home, Michael. Michael studied my face. Arya, do you want to leave me that badly? What? No! I need time to recover from losing Huck. I know it's silly and dramatic, but knowing he won't be there when I get home, I trailed off, another shot of guilt and regret filling my chest. I just need to get it done with. I feel a hand rubbing my back. Michael nodded slowly, looking me in the eyes. His smile was gentle. That's okay. I understand. But maybe this place can help with that. It's a nice spot to nap in, isn't it? I picked it out just for you. Why don't you go ahead and lie down? His words made you sway. A sudden bout of sleepiness weighed heavy over your eyelids. He was right. It is a nice spot to nap in. Why were you in such a hurry? You yawned, laying back to stretch on the grass. A warmth from the ground seeping through your clothes, lulling you into a sense of comfort and safety. There you go. Just spend time with me. Just a bit more, please. Oh, here's something else I could show you. He reached into his satchel. He pulled out a wooden box. It's called a kalimba. Oh, I know what this is. I blinked slowly, clarity coming back as I shook my head to pay attention. The box fit nearly in his hands, Michael holding it as if he were typing on a phone. I could see it had a hole in the middle with thin strips of metal arranged in a triangular shape over it. What does it do? A proud smirk spread across his face. I'll show you. He began to pluck at the metallic prongs, a gentle ringing sound resonating in every flick of his thumbs. I couldn't recognize the song. He might have made it up himself. I closed my eyes, enjoying the tune. And I think that is a good place to stop for today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.